deep divers, settle in because today we're embarking on a deep dive into a topic that might genuinely challenge some of your long-held beliefs about responsible pet ownership. We've been handed some truly fascinating source material that promises to cut through the noise, offering what it asserts is, the factual truth about humane dog confinement.
Right.
Get ready to have your perceptions, especially around terms like cruel or inhumane, completely re-examined. It's pretty compelling stuff.
Indeed. Our mission today is really to thoroughly explore this material, and it makes some very strong data-driven claims about how we ought to secure our animals, particularly when we're not able to supervise them directly.
Right, when we're not home.
Exactly. The source urges us to move beyond common assumptions and truly understand the why behind different confinement methods.
Okay.
It even specifically mentions breeds like the American Pit Bull Terrier in the context of these discussions, framing this whole conversation as look at practical, factual approaches to responsible pet ownership.
Applicable to any dog, really.
Applicable to any dog, regardless of breed, yes. The author's aim is to establish what is genuinely effective and humane based on their extensive experience.
Precisely. So we're going to examine what the source presents as the truth about chain tethering versus traditional kennel runs. We'll be meticulously dissecting the arguments, the mathematics behind the space provided, which is fascinating.
It really is.
And the direct, undeniable impact on our furry friends. It's a compelling argument that we predict will surprise many of you who thought, you had a firm grasp on this subject.
Yeah, I think it might challenge some folks.
Definitely. With that critical foundation laid, let's unpack this material piece by piece.
Let's do it.
So let's begin where our source material does, with a statement that might initially seem counterintuitive to many listeners.
Okay.
The idea that it's actually more humane and responsible to properly confine a dog, even if you have a seemingly secure, fenced yard.
Right. That definitely goes against the grain for a lot of people.
It absolutely flies in the face of the common perception that giving a dog an open yard to roam freely is always the ideal. Yet the source argues something quite different.
It certainly does, and it does so quite forcefully from the outset. The source immediately addresses a critical and, in its view, often overlooked point: the inevitability of escape if a dog is left unsupervised.
Regardless of the fence.
Regardless of the presence or perceived security of a fenced yard, yeah. It posits that dogs, by their very nature as animals, are not moral beings capable of discerning right from wrong or understanding human rules in our absence.
Makes sense.
Therefore, they require constant human control. If humans aren't present to provide that direct oversight, then confinement becomes not just advisable, but, as the source states, essential.
Essential.
Yeah. The material then proceeds to list several compelling and frankly sobering reasons for this assertion, painting a very vivid and often tragic picture of the risks involved.
And the source doesn't mince words here, really hammering home the point that, and I'm quoting directly, nothing good ever happens when a dog escapes his owner's yard. This isn't just a minor inconvenience or a simple mischief, is it? The implication is far more serious consequences.
Not at all. The author details the perils of unsupervised freedom in two main categories: dangers to the dog and dangers from the dog.
Okay, let's break that down. Dangers to the dog first.
Right. On one hand, the danger to the dog is significant and often heartbreaking. The source highlights that dogs can easily get run over by cars, which is an all too common and tragic outcome for animals allowed to roam freely near roadways. They can get lost in the woods, disoriented, and unable to find their way home.
Yeah.
Or just as easily, become lost in the sprawling anonymity and complex dangers of a city environment.
True.
Beyond these immediate threats, they can simply get hurt, whether from accidents, altercations with other animals, or encountering unforeseen dangers in an uncontrolled and unfamiliar environment.
So lots of risks just to the dog itself.
Exactly. These are serious, life-threatening risks that, according to the source, responsible owners must proactively mitigate through proper confinement.
So it's not just about the dog's safety and well-being, then. The source also starkly highlights the potential for a dog to cause trouble when unsupervised, even if they're typically well-behaved or have no ill intent. What are some of those scenarios?
Exactly. The material emphasizes the danger from the dog, even for animals that are usually gentle or well-trained within their home environment.
Right.
An unsupervised dog, simply acting on instinct, can cause trouble in various ways. They might worry livestock, for instance.
Yeah, like chasing sheep or chickens.
Precisely. straying onto farmland and chasing or harassing cattle, sheep, or chickens. This could lead to very serious and devastating outcomes as farmers, trying to protect their livelihood and animals might be forced to take drastic measures,
Oh, no.
such as shooting the offending dog. This is, of course, a devastating outcome for everyone involved and one that the source presents as a direct consequence of an owner's failure to properly confine.
Right. Preventable, basically.
That's the argument. Beyond these specific dangers, the source notes the more common, albeit less tragic, outcome for many escaped dogs, ending up in what the author calls dog pounds.
Or shelters.
Yeah, shelters, animal shelters, humane societies as we know them today. While these facilities strive to care for lost animals, their fate there is uncertain, and it's a situation that causes immense stress for both the animal and its owner.
Definitely.
The source is unequivocal in its assertion that if a dog is left loose and unsupervised, one way or another, every dog will eventually escape his yard.
Every dog. That's a strong claim.
Very strong. And it quite unequivocally states that the only way a dog can escape is when that owner is negligent and doesn't confine his animal properly.
So it puts the onus squarely on the owner.
Completely. This framing firmly positions confinement not as an optional accessory to pet ownership, but as a fundamental, non-negotiable aspect of being a truly responsible pet owner. It's a very strong argument for proactive management.
Okay, so the initial powerful takeaway here is that confinement, in the eyes of this source, isn't about restriction, really.
No.
It's about fundamental safety and responsibility, both for the animal's well-being and for the wider community.
That's the core message, yes.
With that compelling rationale established, our source then lays out 3 clear, measurable goals for any effective confinement method. Can you walk us through those? Because these are the essential criteria by which the source measures and ultimately judges different approaches.
Absolutely. These 3 goals serve as the non-negotiable benchmarks against which both methods' traditional kennel runs and what the source advocates as proper chain tethering are measured.
Okay, goal number 1.
The first, and perhaps most obvious goal, is simply preventing escape.
Makes sense. Keep him in.
Right. The method, whatever it may be, must unequivocally ensure that the dog cannot get out while the owner is away. This directly addresses all those dangers we just meticulously detailed.
Cars, getting lost, livestock.
Exactly. Traffic accidents, livestock harassment, impoundment. Without this foundational capability, no other aspect of confinement truly matters as the dog and community remain at risk.
Yeah, that seems like a non-negotiable fundamental requirement for any responsible owner. No argument there.
Pretty straightforward.
But then the framework moves beyond just mere containment to consider the dog's quality of life and well-being within that confinement.
Right.
Which is where the conversation gets much more nuanced, I imagine.
Precisely. The second goal goes directly to the heart of dog welfare. The source states that the confinement method must aim to keep the animals as happy and comfortable as possible with as much room as possible during their period of confinement.
Okay, happy and comfortable and as much room as possible. Key phrases there.
Very key. This is a critical point because it shifts the focus from simply keeping them in to ensuring their physical and psychological comfort while contained.
Right.
This is where the source suggests many conventional methods, particularly kennels, fall significantly short. It implies a high bar. It's not just about security. It's about ensuring the dog's quality of life during periods of necessary separation from the owner.
Yeah.
This goal pushes us to think about the dog's daily experience, not just the owner's convenience.
And the third goal sounds like it's addressing the very real practical considerations for the owner. Because let's be honest, practicality, affordability, and ease of use are major factors for pet owners when choosing any kind of setup.
They absolutely are, and the source fully acknowledges this. The third goal is about owner convenience and cost.
Okay.
It explicitly specifies that these welfare and security goals must be met as conveniently as possible and for as little unnecessary expense to us as possible.
Right. Cost matters. Time matters.
Exactly. This acknowledges the practical realities faced by dog owners, who often have limited budgets, time, and space. The source sets out to demonstrate that one method dramatically outperforms the other on all 3 of these points.
Okay.
Promising to deliver on security, welfare, and owner practicality without compromise. It's a comprehensive 3-pronged framework that guides the entire evaluation of what constitutes truly humane and responsible dog confinement.
Got it. Escape-proof, good welfare, practical for the owner.
That's the framework. It effectively sets the stage for a compelling comparison.
Now, let's pivot our focus to what many people, probably most people, consider the gold standard for dog confinement, the traditional kennel run.
The concrete and chain link setup we see everywhere.
Exactly. You see them everywhere, from suburban backyards to professional breeding facilities, often touted as the epitome of responsible animal keeping. But our source material argues, quite provocatively, that this is actually a profound misconception.
Yeah, misconception is the word used.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because it challenges a widely held and deeply ingrained belief.
Indeed, the source launches a direct and quite forceful critique against kennel runs, suggesting that despite their popular appeal, they often fail significantly to meet those essential goals of humane confinement.
Those 3 goals we just talked about.
Exactly, particularly those related to the dog's comfort, available space, and owner practicality. While the author does, to their credit, acknowledge a few very limited justifications for kennels.
Okay, so it does concede some uses.
A few, yes. And it's important to note these are presented as exceptions rather than the rule. They quickly pivot to demonstrating what they consider to be their overwhelming and significant drawbacks.
What are those limited justifications the source acknowledges? Because it seems like the author is attempting to be fair before systematically dismantling the case for kennels.
Yes, the source does offer a few scenarios where it concedes a kennel might be acceptable, but always with caveats. Firstly, it mentions kennels might be justifiable for owners with very few dogs that they let out constantly.
So dogs that barely spend any time in the kennel.
Right, implying these dogs spend truly minimal time actually confined. This suggests the kennel is more of a temporary holding pen than a primary living space.
Okay, what else?
Another justification mentioned is for aesthetic reasons, particularly if you live in a nice neighborhood and, as the source wryly puts it, can't ruin your carefully pruned, landscaped backyard with a chain being dragged back and forth across your lawn.
So it's about looks, not the dog's needs there.
That's the implication, yeah. A choice based on human preference over what might be optimal for the animal. And finally, it notes a practical advantage for odor control.
Odor control, how so?
A kennel run with proper drainage allows you to hose down urine and feces, which helps eliminate odor.
Right, easier cleaning.
A necessity in populated residential areas where neighbors might not appreciate essence of dog kennel permeating the air.
Fair point.
However, these are presented as niche, minor benefits that are, in the author's strong opinion, vastly outweighed by the major fundamental issues, which the source proceeds to detail with considerable conviction.
Okay, so the source presents a few very specific niche cases where kennels might possibly be considered. But overall, his argument is that kennels fall miserably short of the humane confinement goals. Where does it claim they fail first and most fundamentally?
First and foremost, the source highlights what it terms the comfort catastrophe, which it attributes primarily to the prevalence of hard concrete floors, typical in most kennel runs.
Okay, the concrete floor, that makes sense.
It argues that this design choice directly contradicts a dog's natural physiology and innate preferences. The source makes a very strong, almost visceral point. Dogs were not designed to run or lie down on hard concrete. They were designed to run and lie down on soft earth.
You don't see dogs choosing concrete if grass is available.
Exactly. This isn't just a minor discomfort, the source argues. It's a fundamental mismatch between the animal's natural state and its enforced environment. The author suggests this oversight alone should make us question the humaneness of such setups.
That makes profound intuitive sense. We rarely, if ever, see dogs naturally gravitating towards concrete surfaces if they have softer alternatives available. What then is the specific physical impact that the source attributes to this constant exposure to a hard surface?
Well, the material explains that forcing a dog to repeatedly walk and lie down on concrete day in and day out leads to chronic physical detriment.
Determine how?
It states that the animal will soon begin to develop sores on all of the contact points his body repeatedly makes with said concrete or cement.
Sores, like actual sores.
Yeah, the source specifies areas particularly vulnerable, such as the elbows, hocks, and hips.
Bony spots.
Right, the bony spots, which naturally bear much of a dog's weight when lying down and often lack significant muscle padding. If a dog is forced to remain in such a kennel constantly, these sores, far from being mere calluses, will worsen and get bigger over time, potentially leading to infections or chronic pain.
Ouch.
Simultaneously, the dog's weight-bearing joints will be likewise challenged while he moves back and forth on the unforgiving flooring. It's depicted as not just a fleeting discomfort, but a constant, grinding physical strain that undermines the dog's long-term health and well-being.
And the source truly aims to drive this point home by using a powerful and highly relatable analogy, doesn't it?
It does.
It really forces you to step into the dog's experience and feel that discomfort for yourself.
It does, and it's quite effective in its straightforwardness. The source asks us to just picture yourself every day of your life having to walk barefoot on concrete and having to sit and lie down on this hard surface.
Okay, yeah, I can picture that. Not pleasant.
And eventually, you too would be praying for a soft spot and a way out of that uncomfortable situation. It then directly and pointedly poses the question, well, how do you think a dog feels then?
Yeah, good question.
This analogy immediately makes the abstract discomfort concrete and intensely relatable, highlighting how inhumane such conditions would feel to us. The implication is clear. If such a situation would be miserable for a human, it's equally, if not more, so for our canine companions,
Right.
who spend a much larger proportion of their lives interacting directly with their environment through their bodies.
Okay, so uncomfortable concrete floors are presented as a major debilitating strike against kennels. What then is the next significant issue the source brings up in its critique of traditional kennel runs?
The next major critique is what the source labels the space shortfall, arguing that kennels, beyond being physically uncomfortable, are also woefully small enclosures.
Too small. Even the bigger ones.
That's the argument. The author contends that kennels provide inadequate living quarters in terms of actual usable space. To make this argument concrete and undeniable, the source provides stark, exact dimensions to illustrate this point,
Okay, let's get the numbers.
emphasizing that these small spaces are, in its view, miserable for the dog.
Okay, lay the numbers on us. What are the typical kennel dimensions the source highlights, and how does it portray their inadequacy?
Right. The source states that the average kennel is 6'10" mitten, which, when calculated, translates to a mere 60 square feet of living space.
60 square feet. Okay.
It then acknowledges that some owners opt for slightly larger configurations, noting that some kennels might be 10 by 10, offering 100 square feet, or even 10 by 12 mitt, providing 120 square feet.
Okay. 120 max, typically.
Typically, yeah. However, the source quickly moves to a comparative analysis that makes even these larger kennel dimensions seem strikingly diminutive. It sets the stage for a dramatic contrast, claiming that even the biggest kennel at 10 by 12, offering 120 square feet, is less than half the living space of an average-sized chain setup.
Less than half. Wow.
A comparison it will fully elaborate on later. And the average kennel, at just 60 square feet, is described as only 1/5 as roomy as an average chain setup.
1/5. That's tiny.
The language is quite evocative, describing these spaces as miserable and woefully small, aiming to shatter any perception that these limited spaces are sufficient for a dog's daily needs and natural movement.
It really hits home with that dramatic comparison, challenging what many of us might consider adequate space. And just as with the concrete floors, the source directly challenges the listener with a question designed to foster empathy.
Yes, it reiterates the direct question to the listener, again forcing personal introspection. Is this how you would like to live every day?
Right. Puts it in perspective.
This rhetorical question serves to solidify the argument against kennels by asking the listener to imagine themselves in such cramped and uncomfortable conditions. The implication, as the source clearly intends, is that if such conditions would be unacceptable for a human, they should be equally unacceptable for an animal for whom we are responsible.
Makes sense.
This personal challenge aims to bridge the gap between abstract measurements and the tangible reality of a dog's daily existence.
So kennels, according to this source, are not only uncomfortable due to their hard surfaces, but also severely lacking in adequate space?
Correct.
What about the owner's convenience and cost, that third crucial goal we discussed earlier? Does the source have anything to say about the financial and time burden of kennel runs? Because cost is a significant factor for any pet owner.
It certainly does. And the news isn't favorable from the kennel's perspective. The source states quite explicitly that kennel runs are, in its assessment, the most expensive way for an owner to confine a dog.
Most expensive, really?
Yeah. It provides a detailed breakdown of the associated costs, estimating that a truly adequate kennel run system with concrete flooring, roofing, drainage, and thick enough fencing will cost you several $100s to implement per dog.
Per dog. Oof, that adds up fast if you have multiple dogs.
Exactly. This is a critical distinction. It's not a one-time cost for a single structure, but a per-animal expense, which can quickly escalate for owners with multiple dogs. The source implies that many existing kennels fall short of this truly adequate standard,
Meaning it costs even more to do it right.
meaning potentially even higher costs for proper construction, yes.
And it's not just the financial outlay, is it? Building one of these sounds like a significant undertaking, requiring a substantial time commitment from the owner.
It is indeed. The source highlights the substantial time commitment involved, stating that such a system would take a couple of months to construct.
A couple of months, wow.
This indicates a considerable investment of both time and effort on the owner's part, far beyond what one might consider a simple, immediate setup. The construction process for a truly adequate kennel, with proper concrete work, ensuring correct sloping for drainage, setting up durable roofing and fencing.
Yeah, that's a project.
It requires significant labor, specialized materials, and often permits and professional installation. This is deliberately contrasted sharply with the minimal cost and time involved for a proper chain setup.
Which we'll get to next.
Which we'll get to next, yes. By painting kennels as inefficient, overly burdensome, and expensive for the owner, while simultaneously being suboptimal for the dog, the source sets up its alternative as a far superior solution on all three key metrics.
It truly makes you rethink what you might have taken for granted, doesn't it?
Yeah.
The common wisdom about kennels being the most humane or practical solution seems to be thoroughly challenged by this source.
Definitely challenged.
So if kennels fall short on comfort, space, and convenience, what's the alternative our source champions, particularly given its controversial nature for many listeners?
Yeah, this is where it gets interesting.
Now we arrive at what is perhaps the most controversial and challenging part of this deep dive, the argument for proper chain tethering. This is the point where a lot of people might immediately recoil, thinking chains are cruel, or they make dogs mean, or it's just inherently inhumane. This is a deeply ingrained societal perception.
It really is a very common belief.
But our source material is remarkably clear and quite blunt on this point, directly stating, and I quote, "This is pure fabricated bull hockey and is absolutely untrue."
Whoa. Okay, bull hockey. Doesn't get much clearer than that.
No, that's a very strong, even provocative rejection of the popular narrative.
Indeed. The author directly challenges these widely held chains are cruel and chains make a dog mean narratives. The source attributes these beliefs to what it calls animal rights fanatics.
Okay, strong language again.
Very strong language. Who, according to the author, rely on overactive imaginations as a substitute for genuine experience.
So it's framing it as imagination versus experience.
Exactly. The author grounds the rebuttal in their own direct, extensive personal experience, stating explicitly that they have raised hundreds of dogs on chains during my nearly 20 years breeding dogs.
Hundreds of dogs.
Hundreds. With every one of them being happy and healthy, while not a single one has ever become mean because of a chain.
Okay, that's a bold claim based on personal experience.
It is. This personal testimony, derived from decades of professional practice with dogs, including, as mentioned, the American Pit Bull Terrier, which the source highlights,
right, the APBT context,
is presented as irrefutable evidence. It's used to dismiss popular misconceptions as malarkey or propaganda invented by those who have no true first-hand understanding of the subject.
Okay.
This personal experiential claim, presented as an indisputable fact, sets the stage for a factual, statistical, and mathematically driven argument that seeks to completely overturn the common narrative.
And those facts, especially when it comes to living space, are truly eye-opening, moving beyond anecdotal claims to hard, undeniable numbers.
Yes, the math is central here.
How exactly does the source mathematically prove the significant superiority of chain setups in terms of the actual living area provided to the dog? This is where the engineering really comes into play.
This is where the geometry becomes central to the source's argument, and it leverages it to make what it considers an undeniable point. The source explains that a properly anchored chain, when secured to a central point, naturally creates a circular living area for the dog.
Right, like drawing a circle with a compass.
Exactly. The mathematical principles are simple and indisputable. The area of a circle is calculated by pi, approximately 3.14, multiplied by the radius squared.
Pi r squared takes me back to school.
Exactly. In this context, the chain length itself becomes the radius of this circular area, allowing for precise and irrefutable calculations of the usable living space provided to the dog. This provides an objective, measurable comparison against the rectangular kennel runs.
So let's break this down. Let's use their example. If you have, say, a 10-foot chain, how much living space does that actually translate to mathematically? And more importantly, how does that compare directly to those limited kennel sizes we just dissected?
Okay, let's do it.
The contrast here is crucial for understanding the source's argument.
Let's follow the math precisely as the source presents it to fully grasp the scale of difference. First, let's recall the kennel sizes.
Okay, refresh my memory.
The average kennel, 6 foot of 10, giving you 60 square feet.
60. Got it.
A larger kennel,
Yeah.
maybe 10 by 10, 100 square feet, or 10 by 12, 120 square feet.
120 max, roughly.
Okay, now for the chain calculations, let's start small. A 6-foot chain, radius is 6 feet, squared, that's 36 square feet. Multiply by pi, you get approximately 113 square feet.
113, so even a short 6-foot chain beats the average kennel, almost double.
Almost double the average kennel, yeah.
Yeah.
Right there. Now an 8-foot chain, radius is 8, squared is 64, multiply by pi, you're looking at about 201 square feet.
201, so more than triple the average kennel.
More than triple, exactly. Now, the 10-foot chain example you mentioned, radius 10 squared is 100. Multiply by pi, a significant 314 square feet.
314. Okay, that's over 5 times the average kennel. And nearly triple the big kennel.
Over 5 times the 60s kilofoot average. Nearly triple the 120-foot large kennel.
Yeah.
It goes up from there. A 12-foot chain offers a remarkable 452 square feet.
Whoa.
And finally, a 15-foot chain provides a whopping 706 square feet of living space.
700. That's enormous compared to 60 or 120. Over 10 times the average kennel space.
It's truly staggering when you lay out the numbers like that. It's over 10 times the space of the average kennel.
The numbers are undeniably compelling. The scale of difference is just immense. The source even uses a striking analogy to help us visualize this vast difference in space, right?
It does.
Making the mathematical argument even more tangible.
Yes, to really drive the point home, the source provides a powerful visual comparison. It states, and I quote, "You could, quite literally, stuff 5 6x10 kennels into one 10-chain space."
5 kennels inside one chain circle. Wow.
Imagine that. 5 of what many consider a standard, acceptable kennel fitting comfortably within the circular area of just one 10-foot chain. This visual is incredibly impactful.
Yeah, it really paints a picture.
Making the mathematical difference not just a number on paper, but a visceral, undeniable reality. It starkly illustrates the spatial inadequacy of typical kennels when compared to a properly set up chain system. This alone, according to the source, is a game changer in the debate about humane confinement.
So it's not just about more space, it's about significantly more space by orders of magnitude, which directly addresses that second goal of as much room as possible. But is it just about square footage? What about the quality of that space and the psychological benefits the source claims for dogs on proper chain setups? Because space isn't everything, right?
That's an excellent question because the source goes beyond mere dimensions to discuss the quality and nature of the living environment.
Okay.
It highlights a crucial benefit of the ground surface. Dogs on a chain are, by default, on nice soft earth for their joints and overall comfort.
Ah, back to the concrete problem with kennels.
Exactly. As opposed to the hard, unforgiving concrete of kennels. This directly addresses the comfort catastrophe identified earlier with kennels.
Right.
The source posits that access to natural ground allows for more natural movement, digging, if appropriate, and a more comfortable resting surface.
Things dogs actually like to do.
Things dogs do. Which significantly reduces the risk of joint issues and skin sores that concrete can cause. It frames this as a fundamental aspect of natural dog welfare.
And what about the psychological aspect, the very potent idea of being behind bars versus being out in the open, even if tethered? That sounds like a significant psychological distinction.
It's presented as a very significant distinction indeed. The source argues there's a profound psychological advantage to a dog not being behind bars, which it associates directly with kennel confinement.
Yeah, cage is a loaded word.
It is. Dogs on a chain, by contrast, are portrayed as being able to investigate nature and, crucially, not feel imprisoned. They are out in the open with a full, unobstructed view of their surroundings.
Able to see what's going on.
Right. Able to observe wildlife, changes in weather, and the general environment. This, the source implies, is far more natural and mentally stimulating than being confined within rigid, walled enclosures, which can feel like a caged life. The ability to survey their territory and feel connected to the outdoor world is presented as key to their psychological well-being.
That leads us directly to owner interaction, which the source also emphasizes as a key benefit of chain setups. How does that interaction work differently and presumably more effectively than with a kennel?
This is a truly crucial point for dog welfare and, perhaps even more importantly, for fostering a strong owner-dog bond.
Yeah, that bond is key.
The source notes that with a proper chain setup, owners can walk right up to each dog, pet them, and play with them, allowing dogs to jump on your beloved owner and be petted every time he walks by you, without the barrier of a fence or a door.
No gate to open, no stepping inside a potentially dirty kennel, just immediate contact.
Exactly. Immediate, unhindered interaction. Unlike kennels, where an owner must open a gate, step inside, and there's always a physical separation or barrier, a dog on a chain is readily accessible.
Right.
This allows for more spontaneous affection, frequent touch, and unencumbered play, fostering a closer, more consistent bond. The source suggests this direct, frictionless interaction contributes significantly to a dog's happiness and social development.
Making the human-animal connection more robust.
That's the idea, yes.
And there's also a practical environmental control aspect that chains allow for, isn't there? The flexibility to choose the dog's spot based on the weather or time of day?
Yes. The source mentions this practical but often overlooked benefit. The ability to strategically position chains under a canopy of shade trees for sunshade options.
Oh, good point. You can move the anchor point or choose the initial spot carefully.
Exactly. This allows owners to ensure their dogs always have a comfortable spot to escape the direct sun on hot days or find a patch of warmth on cooler ones.
Unlike a fixed kennel that might be stuck in the sun all afternoon.
Precisely. Providing a level of environmental flexibility and comfort that fixed, often unshaded kennel structures might not easily afford. This adaptability speaks to the overall enhanced welfare provided by a well-thought-out chain setup.
Finally, let's loop back to the cost and convenience, that third critical goal we mentioned at the outset. How does the proper chain setup stack up against kennels on those fronts, according to the source's detailed assessment?
Okay, the comparison here is stark. The source definitively states that a top-shelf chain setup will cost you less than $60 per dog.
Less than $60, compared to several hundred for a kennel.
Yes, and will take only a couple of hours to set up.
Hours versus months.
Exactly. This cost estimate includes everything needed for a secure, comfortable setup, the proper chain, swivel, and anchoring system. This stands in stark contrast to the several $100s per dog and couple of months to construct associated with adequate kennel runs.
It's a huge difference.
The vast difference in both financial outlay and time commitment makes the chain setup vastly superior, not just for the dog's well-being in terms of space and comfort, but also in terms of owner convenience and financial accessibility.
So it really presents a compelling, multifaceted case, claiming the chain setup excels on all three of the stated goals for humane and responsible confinement.
Security, welfare, and owner practicality.
Making it a win-win for both the animals and their owners, according to this source.
That's the argument presented, yes.
Yeah.
A win-win scenario.
It's truly difficult to argue with those numbers, and the clear, multifaceted benefits from the dog's perspective that the source outlines, it forces you to really think about what's genuinely best for the animal, doesn't it?
It really does.
And it's presented in a way that truly challenges the common perception that tethering is inherently cruel.
Which brings us to a crucial point that the source itself seems to anticipate, and perhaps even aims to influence.
The bigger picture, legislation.
Exactly. The material wraps up by connecting these confinement methods to broader societal issues, particularly current legislation. It expresses deep concern that many cities and counties, and some states even, where chaining a dog is now being considered illegal.
Right. We hear about tethering bans quite often.
We do. And all of these laws, the source claims, were created by animal rights zealots thrusting their ignorant propaganda and agenda down the lawmakers' throats without any of these people truly knowing firsthand the actual fact-TS about kenneling dogs.
Wow. Okay. Zealots, ignorant propaganda, agenda. That's incredibly strong language aimed at lawmakers and activists.
It is very strong, indeed inflammatory statement from the author, suggesting that these laws are not based on practical reality, objective facts, or even genuine animal welfare, but rather on emotion, misinformation, and a specific agenda.
So the source is really positioning this as a direct battle between what it calls emotional, uninformed activism and factual, experience-based understanding.
That seems to be the framing, yes.
It appeals directly to the listener's logic, once again putting them in the dog's place, to make its point about what it perceives as flawed legislation.
Absolutely. The author deliberately reiterates the direct question to the listener, framing it from the dog's perspective to emphasize the stark choice. If you had to be confined, but had a choice, which would you rather be confined in?
Okay, here again.
A 60 square foot living space on hard concrete, or a 120 square living space on hard concrete? Or would you instead choose to live within 314 plus square feet living space on soft earth?
Yeah, when you put it like that.
The source asserts that the answers to these questions are obvious if anyone wants to consider this subject reasonably and factually. The author's intent is clear, to try and persuade legislators and the public to reevaluate their positions based on what the source presents as undeniable truths.
It really drives home the idea that facts should dictate policy, not propaganda, as the source puts it.
That's the core of the argument, yes.
And it doesn't stop there. It presses the listener to ask even more questions from the dog's perspective, going beyond just space and surface to the overall experience of confinement itself.
Right.
It's trying to make the choice seem utterly self-evident.
Precisely. It continues its line of questioning, challenging the listener to consider further, again, from the dog's viewpoint. For that matter, ask yourself some more questions from the dog's perspective. Would you rather be permanently behind bars in a cage in your smaller space on the harder surface where you can't be petted by your owner either?
Okay.
Or would you rather be out in the open where you can still investigate nature, where you can jump on your beloved owner and be petted every time he walks by you?
Framing it as freedom versus imprisonment, essentially.
That's the clear implication. These questions aim to highlight what the source perceives as the stark and undeniable difference in quality of life and opportunities for interaction, making the preference for the chain setup seem undeniably clear and logical from the animal's viewpoint. The author asserts that the dimensions illustrated are all indisputable mathematical facts and are plain as day, leaving no room for subjective interpretation in their argument.
So in essence, the source is making a very passionate and direct plea for fact-based decision-making over emotional reactions or what it labels as propaganda.
Yes.
Particularly when it comes to creating laws that impact animal welfare. It's about letting, as the source states, your vote be swayed only by the facts from a professional.
Right.
What's the overarching core message you think our listeners should take away from this challenging material and its very strong arguments?
Well, I think the key takeaway, according to this source, is that effective and truly humane animal care often requires us to set aside preconceived notions, popular opinion, and maybe even aesthetic preferences.
Things we just assume are true or things that look nicer.
Exactly. Instead, the source argues we must look rigorously at the actual data, the practical implications, and the tangible, measurable impact of our choices on animal welfare. This deep dive into dog confinement methods fundamentally challenges us to consider what genuinely benefits the animal and what empowers responsible ownership, rather than simply what is aesthetically pleasing or what has become popular dogma.
So question the status quo, basically.
That's a big part of it. The source specifically contends that chain setups, when professionally configured, offer the dogs 2 to 10 times the amount of room to move about.
2 to 10 times.
The dogs don't have to be behind bars, and these configurations also allow the owner to walk right up and pet his dog without having to open and close a fence or a door.
Right, the interaction port again.
It summarizes this by stating quite emphatically, everybody wins.
Everybody wins. Interesting.
It's a powerful call for critical thinking, especially when public policy is being shaped, and a reminder that there are often more nuanced, practical, and truly beneficial approaches than the ones most commonly discussed or legislated.
Yeah.
The author's final plea is for readers to not let your vote be swayed by animal rights activists who don't really understand the realities of quartering dogs. Let your vote be swayed only by the facts from a professional, which clearly show all of the advantages go to the chain setups, both to the animals that have to be confined, as well as to the owners who have to pay for these protocols.
Facts over emotion, experience over assumption. That's the bottom line from this source.
It's an argument for objective, data-driven evaluation over emotionally charged rhetoric, yes.
Wow, that was a truly eye-opening deep dive. We unpacked a lot of surprising and, for many, I'm sure, challenging information today about what it truly means to provide humane and responsible confinement for our dogs directly from this source material.
It definitely presents a strong counter-narrative.
From meticulously debunking the kennel is best myth with hard numbers to exploring the mathematical and practical advantages of proper chain tethering, it's clear there's far more to this topic than initially meets the eye. And perhaps, for some of us, our deeply held assumptions need a serious reevaluation after considering these facts.
Indeed. This source pushes us powerfully to question our assumptions and to consider the tangible, measurable impact of our choices on animal welfare. It leaves us with a compelling thought, really.
What's that?
How often do we, in our daily lives, make decisions for ourselves, for our families, or for those in our care based, primarily on popular opinion, aesthetic preference, or even well-intentioned but perhaps misinformed beliefs?
Rather than digging into the actual facts.
Rather than on objective facts, direct experience, and rigorous data.
Yeah.
It's a question worth mulling over, isn't it? There's always more to learn and more to critically examine.
Absolutely. A lot to think about there. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Keep thinking critically, keep questioning, and we'll be back soon with another fascinating topic to explore.